To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
Right, children. Now we are going to start the exercise chapter of this lesson. Remember, as I told you all before, answer all the questions by yourselves, then watch this chapter. Okay? Right. So we are going to start with the exercise given in the textbook. So the exercise number 1. Fill in the blanks using the words given below. The words given are speed, solid, a medium, vibrations, air. Sound is produced by vibrations. Okay, vibrations of objects. So answer is vibrations. Vibrations is necessary for the traveling of sound. What is necessary for the traveling of sound? A medium, right? A medium. A medium is necessary for the traveling or propagation of sound, okay? Sound travels more faster through, sound is fastest through solids, slowest through gases, right? So the sound travels faster through solid medium. Sound is produced in a fluid by the vibration of. Now there are three groups of instruments based on the production of sound, or according to the part that vibrates, we group those instruments. Okay, so the sound that is produced by vibration of members, by vibrating air columns, and by vibrating strings and bars. Okay, so sound is produced in a fluid by fluid. How do we produce sound? By vibrating air columns. Okay, sound is produced in a fluid by the vibration of air. Right, children? Sound is produced by vibrations. A medium is necessary for the traveling of sound. Sound travels more faster through solid medium. Sound is produced in a fluid by the vibration of air. Right? Question number 2. Select the correct answer. Right. The musical instrument that produces sound by vibrating strings is, let's go through this. Drum. Drum produces sound by vibrating membranes. Okay. Violin. Violin produces sound by vibrating strings. That is correct, but we are going to go through the others too. Pair of tabla. It also type of drum. Therefore, it also produces sound by vibrating membranes. Flute. We just discussed that it produces sound by vibration of air columns. Okay. So the answer is violin. Violin produces sound by vibrating strings. Right? Consider the following statements. A, B, C. 3 statements are given. You have to find the correct statements out of the above. Right? Sound travels through a vacuum. Can sound travel through a vacuum? No. Sound needs a medium to travel. Vacuum means there's no medium. Right? So this is wrong. The speed of sound in air is higher than the speed of light. Now we discussed that. When there is lightning and thundering takes place, we could see the light first. We could hear the thundering sound later. And I explained you all, they both occur at the same time. Even though they occur at the same time, we can see the light first because light comes faster. Light travels faster. Sound is a little later. Therefore, the speed of sound in air is higher than the speed of light. No. This is also wrong. A medium is essential for the traveling of sound. Yes. Sound will not travel without a medium. This is also correct. Therefore, the correct statement is only C. A only, B only, C only, A and B only. No. Answers 3. C only. Right. We have completed the exercises given in the textbook. Now we are going to do the extra questions. Exercise number 1. Underline the most suitable answer. Right. Sound is generated due to, how does sound produce? Due to vibrations. Propagation, movements, reflections are not the answers, okay? The sound propagates, travels fastest through. So we'll discuss that when you consider the speed of sound. Speed of sound. It is highest in solids, then in liquids, lowest in gases. Right? The sound propagates fastest through solids, liquids, gases, vacuum. Sound does not travel through vacuum anywhere. So when you consider solids, liquids and gases, through solids is the answer. Two astronauts in space cannot hear each other because, what is the reason? You all know the reason. There are no air particles in space. Therefore, without any air particle, can sound travel through space? Now, space is just like a vacuum, right? So, sound needs a medium to travel because space doesn't have air, sound cannot travel, right? They are wearing ear protectors? No. They are wearing a special suit? No. There is no gravity in space. That is not the answer. There is no air in space for sound to travel through. That is the answer. Number 4. The set of instruments that produce sound by vibrating strings is, we'll go through this. Harp, by vibrating strings. Flute, that is wrong. That is by vibrating air columns. Therefore, this answer is out. Sitar, harp, guitar. They all produce sound by vibrating strings. So this is correct, but we are going to read the other answers too. Bass drum, no, bass drum is, it produces sound by vibrating membranes, okay? So that answer is also out. Saxophone, saxophone produces sound by vibrating air columns. Therefore, answer number 2 is correct. Right. Number 5. During lightning, we hear the sound after a few seconds of seeing light because, why? The light travels faster than that of sound, okay? The speed of light is slower than that of sound? No. The speed of sound is slower than that of light. That is the correct answer. Here the speed of light is slower? No. The speed of sound is slower. The speed of sound is slower when it rains? None of the above. The most correct answer is number 2. The speed of sound is slower than that of light. Right, children? We'll move on to the next. Exercise number 2. How does sound generate? Now we all know. Sound generate due to vibrations of objects or particles, right? Due to vibration of objects, or we can say particles too, or particles. Right? How does sound generate? Due to vibration of objects or particles, right? During lightning, thundering sounds and light are emitted at the same time, but we hear the sound after a few seconds of seeing light. What is the reason for this? We all know now. Because the light travels faster than that of sound, okay? Because the speed of light is higher than that of sound. Right? Because the speed of light is higher than that of sound. Okay? Right. Next one. What are the objects that produce sound called? The objects or the places or anything that produce sound are called, what is the name given? Sources of sound. Sources of sound. or sound sources. Number 2. Musical instruments can be categorized according to the part that vibrates to produce sound. What are they? There are 3 main categories we learn. The instruments that produce sound by vibrating membranes, the instruments that produce sound by vibrating air columns, and the instruments that produce sound by vibrating strings and bars. Okay, let's write that. The instruments that produce sound by vibrating membranes, next one, the instruments that produce sound by vibrating air columns, the instruments that produce sound by vibrating strings and bars. Right, children? The instruments that produce sound by vibrating membranes, the instruments that produce sound by vibrating air columns, and the instruments that produce sound by vibrating strings and bars. We'll move on to the next. Right, exercise number 4. Do you remember we did this activity, children? An apparatus used for an activity related to sound is given below. Now, this is the bell jar activity. You all remember what we did with this? We used this bell jar. Electric bell was fixed inside the jar, and from the other side, jar was fixed to the vacuum pump, right? So then electricity was supplied. We can hear the bell ringing. When we remove the air inside the bell jar using the vacuum pump, gradually the sound of the bell fades off, and then finally we can't hear it anymore, right? Okay. What is the purpose of using these apparatus? We use these apparatus to show that a medium is needed for the propagation of sound. Okay, we showed that sound does not travel without a medium. Why? When we removed the air, we could not hear the sound because there was no medium inside the bell jar in order for the propagation of sound, right? So what is the purpose of using these apparatus? Let's write to show that a medium is needed for the propagation of sound. Propagation of sound. What is the purpose of using these apparatus? To show that a medium is needed, necessary for the propagation of sound, right? Why is the vacuum pump used? What did we do with the vacuum pump? We removed the air inside the bell jar, right? Why is the vacuum pump used? To remove the air inside the bell jar. Remove the air in the bell jar. Right, children? Does the bell ring soon after electricity is supplied? Yes. If we did not remove the air, it rings. We can hear. Okay? Does the bell ring soon after electricity is supplied? Yes. Does the bell ring after the apparatus is connected to the vacuum pump? What happens, children, when you connect the vacuum pump to this bell jar and we started to remove air? The sound of the bell gradually fades off, and then what happens? Then finally we cannot hear it anymore, right? Does the bell ring after the apparatus is connected to the vacuum pump? No. The sound gradually fades off and finally it stops. Right? Okay, children? Right. Explain your answers according to the above 3 and 4. This is 3, this is 4. Why can we hear the sound here? Why cannot we hear the sound here? We will write now. We already explained. When the jar is filled with air, sound travels through air. Sound travels through air. When the air is removed from the jar, as there is no medium the sound does not travel. Right, children? When the jar is filled with air, sound travels through air. When the air is removed from the jar, as there is no medium, the sound does not travel, right? What is the conclusion that can be drawn at the end of this experiment? What is the conclusion? That a medium is necessary for the propagation of sound, right? That the sound needs a medium to propagate. What is the conclusion? That the sound needs a medium to propagate. Right. Exercise number 5. Look at this diagram. This is also something we did. 2 wires are connected to the terminals of a speaker. Pieces of polystyrene are placed on the speaker. One of the 2 free ends of wires is connected to a dry cell from here. The other free end of the wire is touched with the other terminal of the dry cell and removed at once. Now at the moment it's a free end. What we have to do is we have to touch this wire into the cell and then take it off again. Right? So then what happens, children? When this experiment is done, what happens? So what is the observation, children? Every time this wire touches the dry cell, this terminal of the dry cell, what happens? These tiny polystyrene pieces move up and down. But when it is not touching the dry cell, these pieces won't move. Why does this happen, children? Because when we supply electricity here, sound is produced. Right? Now these vibrations take place according to the sound. Because of the vibration of the speaker surface, what happens, children? Polystyrene pieces also move. Right? Write the observation of this activity. Right. Every time the wire touches touches the terminal of the dry cell, the polystyrene balls move. When the wire is taken off the cell, the polystyrene balls do not move. Right, children? Every time the wire touches the terminal of the dry cell, the polystyrene balls move. When the wire is taken off the cell, the polystyrene balls do not move. Right? Explain your reason according to the above observations. Now I just explained. We will write that. When the wire touches the dry cell, electricity passes through the speaker. Then sound is produced. And the speaker surface vibrates. The speaker surface vibrates. According to this vibration, the polystyrene balls move. The polystyrene balls move. Right, children? When the wire touches the dry cell, electricity passes through the speaker. Then sound is produced and the speaker surface vibrates accordingly. According to this vibration, the polystyrene balls move. Right? What is the conclusion that can be drawn at the end of this experiment? What is the conclusion, children? The sound is produced due to vibrations. Okay? Let's write that the sound is produced due to vibrations. What is the conclusion? That the sound is produced due to vibrations. We'll move on to the next. Okay. Number 6. This is also one of the experiments that we did. Okay. During an activity related to generation of sound, a vibrated tuning fork is brought closer to a polystyrene ball hanging with a thread. Okay. Write the observation of this activity. Now here, when we vibrate the tuning fork, it produces a sound. Right? A sound is produced, and when we bring the vibrated tuning fork towards the polystyrene ball, what happens, children? The polystyrene ball moves to either side. Okay, let's write. When the tuning fork is vibrated, it produces sound. When the vibrated tuning fork is brought closer to the polystyrene ball. The polystyrene ball moves. Right? When the tuning fork is vibrated, it produces sound. When the vibrated tuning fork is brought closer to the polystyrene ball moves. Okay? So what is the conclusion? So here also, when we vibrated the tuning fork, it produces sound. So sound is produced due to vibrations. So we can make sure that vibrations take place because the polystyrene ball also moves. Okay? Right. That the sound is produced by vibrations. What is the conclusion again? That the sound is produced by vibrations. Right? Okay. Number 7. During an activity related to the propagation of sound, the apparatus were set as shown in the figure. We did this one as well. Funnels A and B held on ears and funnel C was dipped in the basin of water. The sound was made near the funnel in water. What is the observation? Write the observation of this activity. We have to keep these A and B funnels on our ears and immerse this funnel C in water, and we have to make a small sound in water. So that sound we can hear through these A and B funnels very well, right? The sound made in water, can be heard well through funnels A and B. The sound made in water can be heard well through funnels A and B. Right? What is the conclusion that can be drawn at the end of this activity? What is the conclusion, children? We could hear the sound. We made the sound in somewhere on the side of water, this water basin. We could hear it across the water through the setup, right? So what is the conclusion? The sound travels through liquids. If sound does not travel through liquids, it will not travel through water and it will not reach our ears, right? So what is the conclusion? That the sound propagates through liquids, here water. Right? What is the conclusion? That the sound propagates through liquids. Okay? Right. Right. We'll move on to the next. Right. Exercise number 8. 2 children who are playing with an apparatus made with 2 yogurt cups and a thread are given above. This activity you all have done when you were small. Okay? So write the observation of this activity, children. When one child speaks through one side of this toy telephone, the other child can hear the sound of this child through the stretched thread. Okay, I told you all when you do this activity, you have to make sure that this thread is well stretched between the 2 people. Right? Okay, let's write. What is the observation? When one child speaks through speaks from one side. Speaks from one side. The other child can hear the sound through the stretched thread. Okay, children? When one child speaks from one side, the other child can hear the sound through the stretched thread, right? What is the conclusion that can be drawn at the end of this activity? How does sound travel from this end to this end? Through the thread. Thread is solid. Therefore, we can come to a conclusion that the sound travels or propagates through solids well. Okay? What is the conclusion? That the sound propagates through solids. Right? Okay. Number 9. The sound of a train coming from far away can be heard clearly when the ear is kept on the rail line. What is the reason for this? Now, normally we can hear the sound of a train coming through air. But when we keep our ears on the rail line, we can hear the sound better. Right? What is the reason? Because rail line is made up of metals. Metal is solid. Now this is a solid. So through solid, sound travels faster, right, than through the air. Okay, that is why we can hear it better and faster, right? Okay, because sound travels faster through solids than through liquids, than through gases. Right, children? Sound of a train coming from far away can be heard clearly when the ear is kept on the rail line. What is the reason for this? Because sound travels faster through solids than through gases, right? Number 2, we can hear the sound emitted by dolphins more intensely when we are underwater, but the same sound emitted by them above water is heard very lightly. What is the reason? Again, when we compare air and above the water means we hear through air, right? When we are underwater, we can hear better because sound travels faster through liquids than that of gases, right? Let's write. Because sound travels faster through liquids than through gases. Right, children? Because sound travels faster through liquids than through gases, right? Number 10. This is the last questions for the lesson, right? Write 3 ways that sound is produced by musical instruments. What are the 3 main ways, children? By vibrating membranes, by vibrating strings and bars, and by vibrating air columns. Let's write. By vibrating membranes by vibrating air columns by vibrating strings and bars. Right? By vibrating membranes, by vibrating air columns, and by vibrating strings and bars. Right? Number 2. Write an example for each of the above methods. Let's write. We know a lot of examples now. Let's write the first one. Membranes. We'll write the things first. Air columns. Strings. Bars. Right. Example for an instrument that produce sound by vibrating membranes. We can write the name of any drum. Let's write bass drum. By vibrating air columns, we can write the names of instruments like flute, clarinet, saxophone. Strings. What are the string instruments? Violin, guitar, cello, harp. Okay. And bars, metal bars. We can write the xylophone, cymbals, xylophone. Right. And the last question. How does our vocal sound is produced? Now you all know that in the throat there's this part called larynx, or when you're small you call it sound box, right? So there are membrane-like structures present and they are known as vocal cords. So because of the vibration of the vocal cords, the vocal sound is produced, right? How does our vocal sound is produced? Due to the vibration of vocal cords. Right? How does our vocal sound is produced? Due to the vibration of vocal cords. So we have completed the entire lesson. We learned a lot of new things about propagation of sound, and we did a lot of activities related to the lesson. Some of these activities you all can try at home very easily, and we answered a lot of questions too. So I hope you have a better understanding on this lesson.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.